Disclaimer: in this episode there are mentions of assault and blood. The year is 1908. The warm, sweet scent of fresh bread wafts through the air from a bakery around the corner. Streetcars rumble over the cobblestones, their wheels screeching at every stop. The city hums with life. Vendors shout their wares, children's laughter rises from alleyways, and footsteps echo on the narrow sidewalks. Among the crowd is a young woman, her silhouette upright and proud. Her wide-brimmed hat, decorated with lace and silk flowers, sits perfectly atop her styled hair. It's held firmly in place by two long headpins, their silver heads glinting faintly in the sunlight. These pins are not just for show. They are as much tools of necessity as they are ornaments, anchoring her head securely against the tug of the wind. She climbs onto the streetcar, her boots making a soft sound on the steps. The ride is calm at first, the car rocking gently as it moves forward. But then she notices him. The man beside her shifts uncomfortably close. His elbow brushes her, lingering just a little too long. She catches the faint scent of cologne, strong, almost overpowering. Her grip tightens on her handbag. He leans closer, his words slurred but unmistakably suggestive. Her pulse quickens, but she keeps her composure. "Leave me alone," she tells him firmly. He ignores her, leaning in even closer and grabbing her shoulders. Without hesitation, she moves her arm upwards to her head and takes her headpin. She thrusts the pin towards his arm, the point sinking through his coat sleeve. He cries out, stumbling back, clutching his arm where blood begins to stain the fabric. The streetcar grows quiet, the chatter replaced by a collective murmur of shock. The man staggers to his feet and exits at the next stop, muttering curses as he disappears into the crowd. She doesn't wait for judgment or applause. Her hand steadies as she replaces the pin, securing her head once more. For her, the headpin is more than just a fashion item. To her, it is her protector, a small but powerful tool that lets her take control in a world where she is often denied it. This is the story of the headpin, an elegant adornment, a tool of necessity, and a weapon that empowered women to push back against the world around them. Welcome to today's episode of Lipstick and Liberation, where we explore surprising symbols of women's emancipation. From vibrators to lipstick, these objects challenge social norms. And today, we'll focus on headpins. I'm your host, Salira, a history student at the University of Vienna, and joining me is my fellow history student and guest, Johanna. Welcome.
Thanks, Salira. I'm excited to hear more about this. Hairpins? I didn't know they could be so sharp in more ways than one.
They really could. Today we'll uncover how something as small as hairpins left such a big mark on history. To understand why hairpins became so significant, we need to talk about the hats they were made for. Do you know something about the hat fashion of the late 19th, early 20th century?
I don't know much, except that wearing hats back then was like everyone rocking the latest sneakers today. It was the ultimate fashion statement, I guess.
Yeah, in the late 19th century, women's hats were not just fashion statements, you could say. They were more works of art, massive creations adorned with flowers, ribbons, and even entire stuffed birds. So they were quite huge. And beautiful, maybe not for us today. Practical, not so much. Imagine trying to keep something like that on your head on a windy day.
It sounds like wearing a piece of architecture. Did anyone ever suggest glue?
Not quite. But the headpins were the solution. I've have had never a need for headpins. Did you ever use headpins?
No, me neither. Maybe because I don't wear such enormous hats.
Maybe. Also, today's headpins are much smaller than 1900 headpins. Those were sometimes over 25 centimeters long. That's, the long rulers you can get quite as long as those.
That's quite a headpin.
Yeah, the headpin secured heads to hair styled into buns or twists. They weren't just plain tools, some were beautiful, crafted with gemstones and complex designs.
Functional and fashionable. I like it.
But here's the twist. Their sharpness and length made them more than just accessories. They became tools of empowerment and sometimes controversy. As cities grew, women found themselves navigating public spaces that weren't always safe. Headpins became a secret weapon. One story from 1903 tells of Leotie Blaker on a New York streetcar. A man harassed her and she jabbed him in the arm with her headpin. He fled almost immediately.
That's an amazing image. It's like she turned her head into a security system.
Yeah, and there were plenty more like her. In Chicago, a woman stopped a pickpocket with her headpin. In Paris, women used them to ward off unwanted advances. Headpins gave women a sense of control in public spaces.
I love that. It's like carrying pepper spray day, but way more elegant.
Yeah, and in Europe, especially in Germany and England, suffragettes carried headpins as protections during protests. They weren't just practical, they became a symbol of defiance. While most stories highlight self-defense, some women used headpins offensively. In 1896, a woman stabbed a police officer with her headpin during an argument. Another incident involved a shoplifter who attacked a store clerk with one.
That's tense. So headpins weren't just tools, they were serious weapons.
They were. Just remember how huge they were. These incidents fed into the growing fear around headpins, with some calling them murderous weapons. But this fear could be also interpreted to something more than just fear about safety, as a deeper anxiety about women stepping out of traditional roles. Of course, not every incident was intentional. There are records of women accidentally stabbing themselves or injuring a passerby with protruding headpins. One unlucky man on a train got a headpin in the cheek when the wearer turned too quick. So there were definitely safety concerns.
Ouch. So even bystanders weren't safe?
No, no one was completely safe. By 1910, cities like Chicago and Berlin began requiring safety tips on headpins. Lawmakers insisted these rules were for public safety. But you could also say they were to keep the woman in her place. After World War I, headpins fell out of use. Though in the 1920s people tried to promote headpins through the advertising its self-defense use, headpins have disappeared from everyday life. Today we have self-defense keychains and pepper spray, or maybe a more accurate comparison would be a house key. You have it always with you and you can also use it as something to defend yourself. But maybe it isn't as sharp as the headpin was. The headpin story reminds us that even the simplest items can carry powerful meaning.
Do you think we'll ever see a headpin comeback?
Maybe in fashion, but not as a weapon. They're a fascinating relic of how women claimed space and safety in an era that didn't always support them. So, what happens now?
We'll rate the headpin like the vibrator in the last episode.
Exactly. So let's rate the headpin.
Girl power.
First, practical empowerment. How much did it increase a woman's ability to perform or task or access new opportunities? I would say, well, it didn't actually directly give them new opportunities, but it kept them safe in public spaces. So I would say 8 of 10. It gave women a way to defend themselves and keep their heads in place also.
Agreed, yeah. 8 of 10. It was simple but very effective.
So, symbolic impact, did it challenge societal norms and to what extent? I would say that headpins showed that women weren't afraid to challenge norms and that they were capable of defending themselves. And also there's also a story of a woman helping in a fight of two men with the headpin. So yeah, I would say I give it an 8 of 10.
Agreed. 8 out of 10. It was simple but very effective.
So to the next category, health and well-being. Did it increase women's physical and mental health? Well, maybe in a way that they felt protected because they knew they could protect themselves. But while it improved the safety, there were also accidents of them stabbing themselves with their hairpin, and so I would say I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
Same here. 6 out of 10 feels fair.
Finally, inclusivity. Did all women from different classes, races, identities had access to it? No, headpins were mainly used by middle and upper class women, so I'd rate it 4 out of 10.
I'll go with 3 out of 10 for the same reason. Not everyone had access to them.
Well, thanks, Johanna, for diving into this fascinating history with me. And thank you to our listeners for exploring the story of the headpin. If you want to know more about headpins and their variety in use, you can read the Headpin Menace from Carrie Segrove, published 2016. Segrove gives a lot more examples how the headpins was used. He pulls those examples from historical periodicals.
Thank you, Salira, for inviting me. But we still have something left.
Yeah, that's right. So, Johanna, what's the topic of the next episode?
Well, in the next episode, Janina and Daria, two fellow history students of the University of Vienna, will talk about the first women cyclists.
That sounds quite interesting.
Well, they will talk about how the bicycle furthered women's liberation. We'll stay in the theme of our previous episodes.
That's fascinating. Can't wait to listen to it. Well, thank you, Hannah, for joining me today. And also thank you, dear audience, for listening. Until next time, keep looking for the extraordinary in the everyday.
Thanks, Thanks, Salira.
Let's